in a moment, I'll ask each of you to introduce yourselves, but this is a reminder in case you didn't notice, this is a recorded session. All of our meetings are recorded and then posted on the DD website, the city's website. So let's start, and I'll just call on you one by one. So have your finger near the unmute button so we can hear you. And let's start with Dick Bailey.
Hi, Dick Bailey, founder of Lake Merritt Institute and author of Focus on Lake Merritt.
And Naomi.
Hi, Naomi Schiff, Oakland Heritage Alliance and this committee and the Coalition of Advocates for Lake Merritt.
And Mandolin.
Mandolin Kadera Redmond, the Executive Director for the Oakland Parks and Recreation Foundation.
And Hazel.
Hi, I am Hazel Tesoro. I'm with OPRF as well, and I'm also here helping with the Measure DD Coalition meeting.
Dee, how about you?
Dee Rosario. I'm from the East Bay Regional Park District Board of Directors.
And Kira.
Kira Pasco, I'm Development Director with OPRF.
Terry.
Terry Fashing, Acting Watershed and Stormwater Management Division Manager and DD Bond Manager Acting for Public Works.
Myra and Bob.
Myra Redmond, Agenda Committee for this committee, and Lake Merritt Institute and Weed Warrior.
And Bob Redmond, the 2-for-1 that James Van drafted. I'm going to the Conservancy and the Essex Community Action Team.
John Bowers.
John Bowers, Lake Merritt Institute and Agenda Committee.
David
Wofford, Rotary Nature Center Friends.
Lee
Orrick, Lake Royal Apartments, an interested citizen and photographer.
Mary Spicer.
Hi, I'm Mary Spicer. I am I Heart Oakland Alameda Estuary. We are the Adopt a Spot lead for JLAC and Estuary Park, as well as the Oakland Estuary areas out there. We're fiscally sponsored by Oakland Parks and Rec Foundation.
Sam
Bird. I'm at Lake Merritt Institute or Lake Merritt Conservancy work with Weed Warriors and a number of other organizations, and I'm on the board of the Essex.
And Katie.
Thank you. Katie Noonan, co-chair of Rotary Nature Center Friends and LMI board member.
Leslie
Feldman, East Bay Rowing Club.
And Steve Ackerman.
Hi, everyone. My name is Stephen Acker. I'm with the City of Oakland Department of Finance. I'm the bond manager with Measure KK, Measure U, and I'm helping out with Measure DD. Thank you all so much.
James
Van, one of the initiating members of Measure DD Community Coalition and one of the Coalition of Advocates for Lake Merritt. And also on the Estuary Park working group.
And I'm Jenny Gerard, Measure DD Coalition co-founder and Weed Warrior co-founder, Lake Merritt Weed Warriors co-founder, and Lake Merritt Advocates co-convener, and Lake Merritt Conservancy. Well, welcome everyone. We've been through the introductions I want to point out the minutes from the last meeting. I'm sure all of you read them carefully. Are there any additions, changes, or corrections to the minutes? Shall we approve them as they were submitted? I take.
I move their approval, approval of the minutes as submitted.
Thank you, James.
I'll second.
All right, everybody just do thumbs up. Okay, I'm seeing lots of thumbs, so we'll go with that. Let's start with Terry and the project update report, which is, he's got a lot to tell us. So Terry, it's your turn.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to thank everyone for all the work you do. Just as I was tuning into what you all were saying as we did the introductions, I was just, you know, I just have a lot of gratitude for you all, and all that y'all are, so many of you, all of you, so dedicated to the work you do, and you've been doing it for so many years. So thank you, and thanks OPRF for your involvement with us in this endeavor. Appreciate y'all too. And okay, so I noticed I put this PowerPoint together, and then I noticed it doesn't go in the same order as it's listed in the agenda, but I will be covering everything, so we'll make sure at the end that I did it. But okay, so I'm going to share. Oops, I'm going to try sharing my screen here. There, host, disabled participant screen sharing. Hazel, are you able to?
1 second.
Who's hosting?
I think OPRF. Hazel, fixing it.
Okay, I made you a co-host, Terry, so let's see if that works.
Okay. Yep. Okay. So I'm sharing this PowerPoint. Y'all can see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. You can see that, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, so I'm going to go through this as quickly as I can, all this basic stuff, but this is from the May meeting. We will, we're making sure that we're preserving records from projects that are ultimately removed from the Measure DD list. More on that later in the meeting. And I'll be noting this on several projects, but we are going to be seeking City Council approval. Our Department of Finance staff, actually with Stephen Acker, who's here in this meeting, did confirm that we should go to City Council to officially remove projects from the DD list. So our tentative schedule is going to City Council Public Works and Transportation Committee on November 19th, and then that's followed by the City Council meeting on December 3rd. So, and then a little note from the July 15th to 24 meeting. Katie Noonan, I did try to get the answers for you, as you know, but I didn't get any answers. So if there are ongoing questions about the Rotary Nature Center rehabilitation, please contact 311 and or Oakland Parks Recreation Youth Development, and I've provided the contact information here, okay? So this is an update on the path around Lake Merritt. I also tried to get a schedule on when this project, you know, just an updated schedule on when the repair will be completed. They're still working to execute the contract, and they did not have a schedule to provide to me. So if you want to submit inquiries about this, you can do it through Oak 311. I will, you know, we will follow up on this before the next meeting as well. And, you know, I should back up to say something. I am no longer going to be the bonds manager, the acting bonds manager. The responsibility for this is being moved. We're in conversations with Department of Finance, and there's going to be a shift in who is the official bonds manager. And moving forward, my role is to be the lead person around the projects that the watershed division is implementing with the help of some Measure DD funds. And then there are several projects that are funded in part or totally by Measure DD that are being moved forward by Project and Grants Management Division. And so the division manager for that group is named Chris Reed. You all have met her many times. She's come and given presentations on the Estuary Park project. She will be the point person for those Measure DD projects. I'll be the point person, or whoever is the assigned project manager for the projects under watersheds. And then we will be bringing clarity to the next meeting about who is the official bond manager over Measure DD. But it is no longer going to be housed within the watershed and stormwater management division. It is going to be transitioning over to Department of Finance. They're the bond managers over Measure KK and Measure U. And so it does make sense for that responsibility to be in Department of Finance. And then project implementation is done by watershed, by whichever department/division is implementing the project. So as I mentioned, most projects are implemented by Public Works. In fact, all of the Measure DD projects right now are implemented by OPW, and we are divided into different divisions, and so sometimes different divisions are handling it. Most of the projects have been moved forward by Project and Grants Management, which used to be called Project Delivery. So going to move on after having said that and say that, yeah, at the next meeting, there will be an update on this path around Lake Merritt. So now I'm going to move into the project update. So for the category 1, which is Lake Merritt Restoration Water Quality Improvement, there are no active projects in this category. So I don't have an update. For the category 2, Oakland Waterfront Access, Parks and Cleanup, these are the 3 projects that are that will be removed as Measure DD projects. We've discussed these projects at many of our meetings recently. And as I mentioned, we will be preserving the project files for future implementation of a future project. But due to cost and complexity, we're suspending design on the 7th to 23rd project. Has many names: Union Point Park to 23rd Avenue, or Miller Milling to Cemex, 7th to 23rd. The same goes for the waterfront trail at Park Street Bridge. And then we've already reviewed this, but the waterfront trail at High Street Bridge has been the responsibility to do an alternate project was transferred to the East Bay Regional Park District. I didn't write that here, but we are suspending design on the High Street project, and there will be no future project, future trail under the bridge because it was deemed to be too dangerous. So, so this map just shows where these projects are being suspended, right? And then I just have this little text box here because I was having some back and forth with the Brooklyn Basin developer about exactly what portion of the Brooklyn Basin waterfront trail is complete, and he did get back to me, but I didn't get it in time to make a change to this map. So we'll provide an update at our next meeting on the Brooklyn Basin section of waterfront trail. And we will actually be going to the Public Works and Transportation Committee with an update on the waterfront trail project in general tentatively on November 19th, and Chris Reed will be giving that informational point. Losing my ability to talk. Chris Reed will be giving an informational report to City Council Public Works and Transportation Committee on November 19th on the waterfront trails of Oakland, program in general. And so this map will be fully updated by then and in time for the next DD meeting. So, and then this is the list of projects that are being implemented by either East Bay Regional Park District or Brooklyn Basin, and this just provides updates. There were no updates since, there haven't been any updates for several months on the East Bay Regional Park District project. I did receive an update from Brooklyn Basin saying that their phase 4 and parcel N is in planning for design review and may be complete in the next 2 to 3 years. So again, we'll provide an updated map on that. And then now to talk about Estuary Park. You all had requested that Chris Reed come and give a presentation to you on the draft Estuary Park Master Plan and Estuary Park in general. But she was not able to come to this meeting tonight. She is very busy going to a lot of other public meetings. And so I have grabbed the slides that she provided, or she put together a presentation and gave it to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee on September 11th. And so I took those slides and I'm going to share those with you here. This is the link to PRAC's web page where the recording of the meeting will be accessible once they upload that recording. So for Estuary Park Master Plan and CEQA approvals, the public review is, sorry, I'm having a frog in my throat here. So this just summarizes the public review that has been done so far, and then it discusses next steps for formal hearings. And so, and in fact, Chris is at a formal hearing tonight, which is the Landmark Preservation Advisory Board. And then she'll be going to the Planning Commission later this week, September 18th at 3. And then she'll be going to the Public Works and Transportation Committee. The tentative date is November 19th. And then council would follow on December 12th to consider adopting the draft Estuary Park Master Plan and CEQA findings. So this is just to remind you all, I know everyone on this call knows this, but just to get you situated geographically, the Estuary Park project is down here near the mouth of Lake Merritt. And as you can see in the picture on the right, this is the general area of the Estuary Park renovation. We're not doing much work in the area of the Jack London Aquatic Center. So I'll go through this presentation to say more. So project history is Estuary Park is an existing 7-acre site that does include Jack London Aquatic Center through a variety of planning processes beginning in the mid-90s. This project was proposed and thereby incorporated into several local and regional plans, including the adopted General Open Space Plan, Conservation Rec, Oscar in 1996, and the Estuary Policy Plan in 1999. The Estuary Park site is part of the Greater Oak to Ninth currently known as Brooklyn Basin Project. As a result of the initial planning vision, the Brooklyn Basin Development Agreement established that the 4-acre cash and carry site located at 105 Embarcadero West would be acquired by the city, expanding the total site area from 7 to 11 acres. Site would be transferred to the city upon the developer's completion and state acceptance of site remediation. So we've gone over this before, but I want to share this with you. And this is the park master plan as it stands right now. Some pictures of what it would look like, some of the different features. And by the way, I've already shared this PowerPoint with Hazel, and this will be posted to the website soon. I'm sorry it wasn't posted sooner. So for the current plan, right now, what is happening is that, as you know, in May 2024, Signature Development Group submitted a planning application for the parcel in property it owns, proposing townhomes on the site. The application is undergoing planning consideration at this time. So the potentially impacted elements are the expanded parking lot. So if parcel N is developed by Signature Development Group, then how would that affect the Estuary Park Master Plan? Is it would limit the expanded parking lot. It would impact the dog park, the planned dog park, the picnic area, and the small multi-use field. So right now, hold on a second. I'm getting to my notes here. Hold on. So discussions are underway with design consultant team and city stakeholders to define options for phase 1 construction that are outside of parcel N. Options for phase 1 and schedule for implementation depend upon several factors, including the amount and timing of available funding and remediation for the park site. And so what Chris shared at the Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission meeting was that we're looking at phased implementation, and the criteria are to avoid parcel N, activate the park, make sure that we have clear access to the park features that would be constructed. I'm not sure what she meant by public outreach, so I'm just going to say that she noted public outreach. We'll have to work on the resolving utility issues and deal with regulatory requirements and make sure there's enough funding available for construction. I'll talk about funding later. And then this is how the design team is prioritizing the first phase of construction. The highest priority is the Bay Trail, then the pergola area, the entry, the temporary boat storage, and the playground. So, and then this is the project timeline right now. So we went through how we're going to get the master plan adopted, all the formal hearings, so on and so forth. So once the master plan and CEQA and the major conditional use permit are adopted, that'll be February 2025. And so then phase 1 construction documentation and permitting would occur in spring, summer of 2025. And then hopefully bid award in fall, winter 2025, and then phase one construction in 2026. So that is the update. This is a URL where you can get more information on the Estuary Park project. Do you want to pause? Should we pause for questions, or should we do those at the end? Do you want to go through this whole thing?
I'm not seeing
Maybe,
any stuff right now, so.
and we're gonna it's on the agenda to talk about it later, so maybe
Yes.
that would be the right time to talk about it. So
Oh, Lee, hold on. Lee has his hand up. So Lee, you're.
A quick question. I don't know the political background. There was a initial preliminary drawing for the park that had what's called parcel in part of the park, and then it suddenly became part of the signature development. Was that originally part of the signature development, or is that a change?
So Signature Development owns parcel N, and this slide tries to explain what you're asking. There was an agreement because of all of these different plans that were adopted, and there was an agreement between the city and the developer, and that was laid out in the Brooklyn Basin Development Agreement. And that agreement was that the 4-acre cash and carry site would be acquired by the city, which would expand the park area available for renovation. So what has happened is that the city has been working on designing the Estuary Park renovation. However, and under the idea that because of the development agreement that the parcel in would eventually be transferred to the city upon the developer's completion and state acceptance of site remediation. However, in May 2024, Signature Development Group submitted a planning application for parcel in property it owns, and they're proposing townhomes on the site, and the application is undergoing consideration at this time. If approved.
So, but that raises the question of they're changing their agreement unilaterally. And is this something that citizens should be reacting to?
So Terry, hold on just
go ahead. Yeah.
These are great questions, and I see both James Van and John Klein have their hands up, and they are two of the most active members of the Estuary Park Task Group, which the coalition
Thank you.
asked to look into this. I'm going to suggest that we pause for a moment the discussion of Estuary Park. I know that James and John have a lot of updates and answers to your questions. So with everybody's agreement, let's let Terry, you've got this background.
Thank you.
Question, and James and John, if you'll just hold on, we'll get to Estuary Park later. So unless are you going to take down your hands, or do you all want to continue to be called on? Well, okay, James, will you agree to let us have this conversation a little bit later?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Thanks all. Okay, so let's move on to update on the funding category 3, Lake Merritt to Estuary connection, Lake Merritt channel. So an update on this one active project, which is the Lake Merritt channel at 10th Street. This project has completed construction and is in the post-construction phase. However, because the mitigation wetlands and other planted areas on the project site that are mitigation plantings, because of the impacts to those planted areas, replanting must occur in throughout the park to meet environmental permit requirements. So we're proceeding with a planting project that actually requires a fencing project to be done first to protect the area that will be replanted for the second or third time, I think, and to keep it protected long enough for us to fulfill the obligations under our environmental permits. So we've received permits to do this replanting work. We submitted we sent out bid requests, planting bid invitations to secure a planting contractor later. We are about to execute a fence contract. The fence installation will be complete by January 2025, and by that time we will award the planting contract. And then we'll be planting in the spring. Whoops. And then by May, we'll begin the 3-year plant establishment and warranty period, and we'll reopen the park to the public for daytime access. Because we're going to be closing it off to daytime access while we do all of this work. There will be monitoring and reporting required for years after replanting, like possibly 10 years, hopefully just 5. And then there's been ongoing extensive coordination with city divisions such as Oakland Police, Public Works to keep up Oakland clean and beautiful, DOT parking enforcement, and county management team, and then adjacent private institutions. So move on from that one. So this is an update on the Lake Merritt Channel at 7th Street project. Design was suspended years ago. And that was because the Envision project would have required the Alameda County Flood Control District to make changes to their pump station. We will be removing this project from the Measure DD projects list, but we'll preserve the past project files in case needed for a future project. And tentatively, we're going to council on November 19th, Public Works and Transportation Committee, and then later to council. But John Bowers asked me to come to this meeting with some details about what the previous alternatives had been. And so I gathered that information. So the Lake Merritt Channel at 7th Street project, the previous improvement alternatives that had been considered, there were 4 alternatives. The first alternative was just to do safer and ADA compliant walkways, stairs, and passages. And these are years old estimates. So the old estimate was $3 million for this project. And that project would improve lighting, drainage, general appearance of existing pedestrian tunnels. And there would be no improvement to flood control and no access for boats. This project is actually in the city's CIP, capital improvement program or plan, as an unfunded project. Alternative 2 would be to construct a bypass tunnel for boats. And this is that old estimate of $10 million. This would have allowed for boat navigation around the pump station when floodgates are open, and it would include those pedestrian tunnel improvements from alternative 1. And then moving on to alternative 3 would have made changes to allow, would have relocated the pump station and retrofit the existing bridge. So the old estimate was 40 million. I'm sure that would be higher now. The potential, this would allow boat passage at all times and would potentially provide flood control improvement, and would include those pedestrian tunnel improvements from alternative 1. And then the fourth alternative would have, instead of just retrofitting the existing bridge, it would have constructed a new bridge and relocated the pump station. So it'd be more expensive and would have all of the same benefits of alternative number 3, but would have improved aesthetics. So that is the update there. John, do you have any questions for me there?
No, that's very clear. Thank you.
Okay, good. Let me know if you have any other questions. Okay, so moving on to the Lake Merritt Channel to Estuary Connection project. I thought I would just go through this one as well. because we're removing this from the Measure DD list as well. So prior to 2020, as far as I could tell, looking back at the history, 50% design drawings were completed using grant funds. Due to lack of funding, design was suspended. And back then, we said that we transferred the project to Oakland Department of Transportation, but the project is not active. So tentatively, like all of the other projects, we're going to go to City Council, Public Works and Transportation Committee on the 19th of November, and then Council on December 3rd to request removing this project from the DD list. We're preserving the project files, and just to note that the city's 23 to 25 capital improvement program lists an unfunded alternate project known as the Highline conversion of unused railway bridge. This is on the Measure DD Community Coalition wish list, and this would provide an alternative Lake Merritt to Bay Trail connection. I did reach out to Oakland Department of Transportation, and they let me know that they typically do not work on unfunded projects, and they may not take the lead on a trail project that's not in the public right-of-way. And what they meant when they said public right-of-way is they meant the street. So they typically only work on trail projects that are adjacent to a street. So that is the update there. So this is just to show you for this project. This is the gap that we're talking about, and that this project, Lake Merritt Channel to Estuary Connection project, this is what the gap that this project was trying to solve. And then in this picture, I drew a circle where this, where is it? Highline conversion of unused railway bridge project would be. So that's where there would be an improved trail here. So that's that one. So moving on to category 5, I will have to invite Mike to come to a future meeting because we're not ready to talk about this, but an update on the acquisitions program. There is a property owner who owns this parcel in the Cobbledick Creek watershed in the headwaters. The property owner received an appraisal for Cobbledick Creek headwaters. I said approximately $1 million. It was a little more than $1 million. The property owner is interested in selling to the city for about $800,000 and donating remainder. The details of that have not been sorted out, but right now the city is evaluating this opportunity, but we have not determined that we are going to pursue this, but we are evaluating it, and I wanted to let you know. And moving on to the other projects that we have in this category, the Cortland Creek Restoration Project is almost done. Construction is 90% complete. We had some damaged areas of the project that were repaired in July. In September, we resurfaced the trail and we're installing seating. We're gonna do some other final things like split rail fencing and get signs up by December. And we have to complete the whole thing by the end of 2024. So we're working to get all of this work done by then to meet a grant deadline. Revegetation is complete, and we'll do the remainder by the end of the year. And then at the beginning of 2025, we'll use our grant funding that doesn't expire to get started on the post-construction plant establishment, which will last for 3 years. And then we'll have environmental permit monitoring and reporting for 10 years. After that, the last 5 years are only photo monitoring, so not too bad, not too involved or expensive. And then these are these other projects. The Glen Creek Restoration Project has been on hold. We'll get to the 30% design in 2025, but I'm not sure where we'll go from there. Then there's the creek restoration of Beaconsfield Branch. We might like to move this ahead of Glen Echo Creek, which we'll come back and talk to you about more because of the need to make some repairs up there in that section of the watershed. And then for the Fossil Creek restoration in Diamond Park, we are still doing our compliance with environmental permit. So we're still having to use a little DD funding for that. And we won't be finished with that until 2026. So, so any questions? No questions. Okay. So for the fifth.
Hold on just a second, Terry. I think John has his hand up. John.
Okay. John.
Terry, I just wanted you to clarify that the abandonment or suspension of projects at 7th Street are the results that you have described have occurred for reasons that are independent to Measure DD for financial considerations, and they have not occurred as a result of opposition by the Alameda County Flood Control District. Is that a fair understanding on my part?
No, I think it's those things. And my understanding is the Flood Control District indicated they have no pending plans for pump station upgrade, meaning they were not wanting to work on, I guess, options 3 or 4 because they did not want to work on, they were not interested in making changes to that pump station, upgrading it, meaning relocating the pump station. So the Flood Control District, but we also, we didn't have the funding, but we were not able to proceed with the possibility of going for alternative 3 or alternative 4 because the flood control, it would depend on the Flood Control District wanting to work on that with us. And they were not able to work with us on that.
Okay, I think that needs to be made very clear that what we are, that the projects that we have been looking at this location have not been able to be pursued, at least in part, by the opposition of another political entity.
Right.
And I think that should be made part of your report.
Okay.
And your notes.
Absolutely. And that I hear you. And I tried to make it part of my report right here. And I have not spoken with them about this, but when I went and looked through the notes, this is what I found, that they did not have plans for pump station upgrade. So, but I hear you. And as we work on preserving all of the project details and conceptual designs or project planning, we have some notes from a meeting that occurred, so I'll make sure that those are preserved. Where I think that was the meeting where the district said they were not interested in taking it to the next step. So, but thanks for your input. I hear what you're saying, and I agree. Okay, so we got past these projects, and now to the fiscal report. I sent this out, but I did make some changes to I'm going to open that up in a minute. I'm going to get through this whole PowerPoint, and then I will open up the fiscal report. But at the last meeting, Bill Srelfall asked me to add a column to show the encumbrances so that when we're showing the remaining Series C remaining funds, we're showing encumbrances and remaining funds that are not encumbered. So we did that. And so this is now how the fiscal report is set up. Although I think I was having so many printing problems that I removed project description. And so I'm remembering that now. I was having some struggles this afternoon and I ended up printing it without the project description, but I can print another version and with that, because I'm just realizing that I took that out as a remedy. Okay, so I'll go into this in a minute. So I wanted to talk about Series C remaining funds spending plans. It's basically the same as last time, but I made some corrections to some of the information from last time. So this is just to say that nothing has really changed except that we are more sure that we would like to use the remaining Category 1 funds. We would like to have those go toward the first phase of construction for the Estuary Park project. We plan to request authorization from City Council to move Category 1 funds in the amount of $1,500,449. We want to move those to the Estuary Park project to construct that first phase. And then when Series D Measure DD bonds are sold, we would return those borrowed funds using Series D Category 2 Estuary waterfront access funds. We would return those funds to Category 1. So we'd use them now and return them later. And that's what this table is trying to show. I'm sorry if this is busy, but what I'm trying to show is that of all of our remaining funds, and in my table, I show about $8.4 million where we all are right now with the remaining funds. And any remaining Series B funds will be used to service the debt. And I think there might be a very small amount of Series A funds, and those would also be used to service the debt. And then for all of the Series C funds, this is how we would be spending them. So for Estuary Park, what I did is I showed that, you know, in the first column, that shows where we're going to spend the Series C funds. And in this middle column where it says, where is the funding now? Like where will we find that funding that we need to spend? That's where this is being shown. And so for getting funding to Estuary Park to construct that first phase of construction, we're going to be using remaining funds from a bunch of different projects. So Estuary Park project itself has funding remaining in it. You know, this is not how much has been spent to date. This is just how much is available either in encumbered funds or non-encumbered funds. And then there's just funding in a project, a general project that we have in Category 2 of 2.9 million almost. And then here are the funds, the remaining Category 1 funds, which are, that sums up remaining funds from the following project numbers. So like I said, we have about 1.5 million there. And then we have other remaining funds in Category 2 from suspending design on those projects we discussed earlier, with the 7th to 23rd Park Street Bridge. Oh, my phone thought I was talking to it. And the Park Street Bridge Trail and the High Street Bridge. So that's this amount, 126,000. And then we have some remaining encumbered funds that once we close out those remaining contracts, then those funds will be released and we can apply that funding to the Estuary Park project. And same thing with Fruitvale Land Crossing. We have remaining funds in that project, which will go to Estuary Park. And then we have some remaining encumbered funds in maybe the construction contract. So once final invoices are paid, then any remaining funds will be released, and we'll put those into the Estuary Park project. And then, our remaining funds in category 5 are primarily going to the Cortlandt Creek Restoration Project. I think I messed up here because only like about 10,000 will be used for the Fossil Creek environmental permitting. So I apologize that I have an error in this table. So much detail, you all, I'm doing my best. And so for the watershed acquisitions project, we have about 863,000. As I said, we're considering this parcel acquisition, and we are going to need some of the funding. If we do an acquisition, we're going to need some of that funding to pay for all of the work that needs to be done to acquire property. But right now, that's how much total we have remaining in that project. And that is how we're planning generally to spend our remaining Series C funding. And if you'll notice, that amount is $8.4 million. So now I want to move on to the Series D bond issuance planning, which we talked about last time. So if this goes category by category, so we went over this last time. I'm not going to get into a ton of detail, and maybe you all can just ask me if you have questions so we can go back to it at the end. But so for category 1, as you know, you gave us your wish list projects. The way we see it is based on the amount that was originally allocated in Measure DD for this category was 88 million. What has been already issued is about 80 million, just rounding. And then what is left to sell in Series D is almost like 7.8 million. Uh-oh. I think I'm seeing an error here. Oh no, here's why. Oh gosh, I'm losing my mind. The reason, so if this is how much we have, 7.8 million is how much is available for Series D for category 1. However, as you recall, we're going to borrow about 1.5 million of remaining Series C funding from category 1. So we're going to pay that back with category 2 Series C funding. And so that's why this, in this final column, this is about 7.8 million plus 1.5 million. And this is what we will end up having available to spend in category 1. And so if you add up the top 3 wish list items, it comes to almost, and these are just,
it's not on. I'm talking on the phone.
These are just estimates, but basically what it comes up to is almost the amount that we have coming in Series D funds. There will be time, because we don't know when the Series D bonds will be sold. I don't know if that will happen next year or the year after, and Stephen Acker is here and may be able to say something about that. But right now, I don't know when, but I do know that it's a while. And so if there is additional discussion is needed to be had about which of these projects will be prioritized, then those conversations can come later. And right now, these are just estimated costs for these projects, like the Rotary Nature Center, to geodesic dome path improvements, now called Lake Merritt Trail Improvement Project. The estimate is 4.5 million, you know, and that is just an estimate, but that would take up the lion's share of what would be remaining in category 1. And then there are these other projects. These projects all got prioritized through the CIP prioritization process. But if the DD coalition, you know, wanted to, for instance, this children's playground at Rotary Nature Center upgrade, this was not an original Measure DD project, but it scored a little higher. And I think if the DD Community Coalition, because of the support that you all got from the city administrator a few years ago for these wish list projects, if you wanted to put these projects down here, the sailboat house rental facilities improvement, the Pierce Street improvements, and the shade trees, if you wanted to move those up, you know, you could move it up above a project that wasn't originally on the Measure DD list, right? So I think there's some time to think about which of these, you know, we really just want to select the projects that can be constructed using this funding that's coming in Series B. And so, but the decision about which ones will actually be built, that more discussion can be had about that at a future time. Katie.
Yes, so the children's playground at the nature center is not a Measure DD approved project. Am I correct?
Right. But it was a wish list project.
Because I thought that the director of the Rotary Nature Center had in fact submitted that as a CIP improvement.
Okay, maybe that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that is and then it was yeah, that is why it's where it is. Yeah, but this doesn't have to do with Measure DD, so I'm not sure if it should be getting DD funds, but same.
Okay, right. Okay, well, that is a very important thing and maybe a misunderstanding on my part. So great. That is great feedback.
Well, look it over. I mean, find out, because things change so a lot. But that was my understanding, that's what that was.
And my understanding has grown, and so I hear what you're saying, and I think what we could do is, especially now that I've spoken a lot with Stephen Acker about which projects can and can't be built using Measure DD, I think actually this one should come off.
Yeah.
Because it was not originally envisioned and wasn't on the DD list originally. So I think we could take this off, and then that would move all of these up. But this one is 13 million. So I think that would automatically move these two bottom ones up, right? Because it would be hard to do this rental facilities project because there's not enough funding. And so we would just move these two. Does anyone disagree with that? We would move East 18th Street pier improvements and shade trees for Lake Merritt. We'd move those up, remove children's playground at Rotary Nature Center because it's not fundable by Measure DD, and I'll confirm that in a conversation with Stephen Acker, and I'll communicate all of this to Chris Reed, the head of the Project and Grants Management Division, as well as OPRYD, right? Does that all make sense to everyone? Is anyone following this? Have I put you all to sleep?
I'm going to call on myself here, and Terry, absolutely, this makes sense. And a comment that was made, and I think Naomi may have been the one who made it early on, is playgrounds, unlike some of these other projects, attractive fundraising targets. So if it is conceivable that a fundraising program could take over the renovation of the playground near the Rotary Nature Center and fund that. So absolutely, it makes sense to move up the
Okay.
18th Street Pier improvements and shade trees for the 2 million that the playground item would be. Okay, I see, Katie, your hand is up again, and then we're going to move on.
Just briefly, I would like to have some more information about the requested sailboat house rental facilities improvement and assessment. It is run down. I spent a lot of time down there, but they have already received a great deal of Measure DD funding, I believe. Just curious
Right.
what is involved.
Right. I'm not sure. I mean, this is the Measure DD wish list, and that's all I know about it is just the description. That, like, basically all I know is what you see on this screen. It is an extension, but because of the cost estimate here, and I don't know if the cost estimate matches what was envisioned. These all scored in the ballpark with each other. So just given the cost and given the amount of money that's available, it does seem like the right thing to do to move these two bottom ones up, remove this one, and I'll verify that with Stephen Acker. He and I can talk about that. And but I'm pretty sure this shouldn't be here. And then if the DD, there's some time, like I said, it's going to be a while before those DD Series D bonds are sold. And so the DD Community Coalition wants to clarify what is the scope of work for these sailboat house rental facilities improvements, and that the cost would come down, and if that were, if folks wanted to do that, then that could be discussed. But the way I'm looking at it, just practically speaking, given how much money we have and the projects that need to be done or are still on the list for Measure DD, I say we get this 18th Street Pier Improvement project done and the shade trees done.
Hey, Terry, let me call on James at this point. He may have comments here. James?
Thank you. The figure that's estimated for the East 18th Street improvements, I'd like to see a breakdown of that because there are really only two elements. There's installation of some letters on the central pier, and my estimate is that if you took bids on that, that would probably come way under no more than $1,500 at the most, very most. And then there's a request for another bench.
Okay.
And I just cannot see that comes up to almost $7.75 million. So anyway, look at that very carefully because that figure is way inflated for what the work that we request to be done there.
Right. So I think what I'm going to do is share this information with Chris Reed with Price and Grants Management, and then figure out what are the next steps for just really defining these projects. And maybe it seems like it would be a good idea to have this be an agenda item where we come in with, here's what we think these projects are, and just clarify the scope of work, or maybe have a little work group with a few folks from the DD Community Coalition who have the details. And then that information can be provided to OPRYD and Chris Reed, or maybe just Chris Reed's group, or whichever project manager she assigns, because we need to clarify the scopes of work, I would assume, on all of these projects, so we can make sure that these cost estimates make place. And that should be the goal well before we go to sell the Series D funds. Does that sound like a good plan?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right.
Terry,
So-
hold on just a minute. I'm seeing we have set aside about 5 more minutes in this section. I want to
Okay.
make sure you get to say what you need to and then open it up for questions, not about Estuary Park at this point, but anything else that Terry has said.
Okay, so should I zip through the rest?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this one's easy. Series D bond issuance. Right now, the last project standing in this category is Estuary Park. And I calculate that we have about 17.5 million coming. Oh gosh, I made another mistake here. It looks like, yep, I didn't, so I need to fix this before Hazel, I'll fix this and then send you a new version to put up on the website. But sorry, I see an error here. But what this is saying is that we're expecting we'll have 20 million, but if we really borrow 1.5 million from category 1 in category 2 of remaining Series C funds, then we're going to have to return it, and that's what this table is trying to show, and it says so in the notes. And so we're just saying whatever Series D funding we have, we want to apply that to getting the Estuary Park renovation project completed. And then Lake Merritt Channel category 3. Again, these are the wish list projects. So the thing that we just worked out for category 1, where, I'm going to talk to Chris Reed in project and grants management. We're going to sort out if watershed division is going to be doing any of these projects, such as the Lake Merritt plant restoration. Maybe we would be involved in that, I'm not sure. And then we need to clarify what we think the scope is for these projects, and then come back to the community coalition and just verify that, and then get fresh cost estimates going, hopefully, or get a plan to get cost estimates together. And like I said, I want to really get some input from her before I commit fully to exactly what we're going to do. But the general thing here is that we, after you take out, I didn't talk about this above, but we have to subtract out 6.5% for art and administrative fees. So you have the amount that is coming through Series D, and then you subtract out 6.5% and you get the remaining amount. And so the way I see it is that these wish list projects, the first 3 are all that could be funded at these cost estimates, and they actually exceed what we have coming. So if we have about 5.4 million coming, and the top 3 wish list projects cost 7 million, then we're going to have to figure out the scope of work for this more expensive one, and make sure that, we probably wouldn't be able to spend 5 million because we wouldn't have the funding for it. And then this High Line conversion of unused railway, that's like very expensive project, so that's not likely to be built under Measure DD. And then there's the portage ramp for boats at the Channel Park, and that one didn't score as high as these others, and so that's why it's down at the bottom of the list. And then we get to this category. I am also going to be talking with Chris Reed about this category 4. This would be funding, and also I'll be talking with Oakland Parks and Rec, OPRYD, talk with them about this, because this would have to be, a collaboration between OPRYD, and they would have to say what it is that they want to do with this $2 million, and then sort out a schedule with project and grants management as to when the project can be built. So there's no definition here. We just know we have some money coming in Series D. So I'll be communicating about that with folks and handing it off to them. And then in this creek category 5, creek restoration, I'm thinking that I would like to apply the Series D funding to the Beaconsfield project if we can't find funding for that before then. And if we do find funding for Beaconsfield before then we would apply this funding to the Glen Echo Creek project. And then we would go for grant funding for the rest of Glen Echo Creek. And that is my plan for Series D. And I'll be handing this off to whoever is being the DD bond manager, but watershed and project and grants management will stay very involved because obviously we're the ones who would be delivering these projects. And we're also going to involve Oakland Parks and Recreation and Youth Development because they're often the client department. And okay, I'm going to get through this part really fast. I know we need to move on. So we talked about this last time, and this is where Stephen Acker may come in, but the issuance of Series D bonds in the amount of $9.8 million for the Estuary Park renovation project, the issuance of those bonds was postponed in the fiscal year 24-25 mid-cycle budget. An explanation for that is that, you know, we approved the CIP plan in June 2023 with the assumption that the Estuary Park project would be ready for construction in fiscal year 24-25. However, it is not ready for construction yet. And so the city, and also, as you know, the city has all of these remaining Series C funds that we need to spend as soon as possible. And so therefore we determined that because we have to spend the Series C funds down further before we sell the Series D funds, we came up with a plan by talking with the outside bond attorney and Stephen Acker to spend about $5.1 million of those remaining Series C funds on the Estuary Park project to build the first phase of that project, as we went over earlier. And so therefore we postponed the selling of the Series D funds. The $9.8 million is not a deduction from 2017 or 2018 Series C. Department of Finance used the Oracle System Series C fund account 5322 because a fund account for Series C funding will not be created until the city sells the Series C bonds. And as shown in the proposed Series D spending plan in this presentation, all available Series D Category 2 funds are recommended to be spent on the Estuary Park project. And so, sorry, this is a little disjointed, but the $9.8 million shown in the tables below represent Series D bonds that were going to be sold in 24-25. In the mid-cycle budget, this plan was reversed for the reasons outlined on the previous slide. This was confirmed again by Department of Finance staff on today, September 16th, 2024, that Oracle Fund 5322 was used as a placeholder account. So where you see this reduction in funding, that is just the reversal of a plan to sell bond funds. And in the accounting system, they use this fund number because they don't have a new fund number to use. And so I know that it is confusing, but it is simply we said, oh, we have a plan to sell some bond funds. And then now we decided to postpone that plan. And so we had to do a plus and a minus in the budget. But as I showed you on this slide over here, our original authorized amount for Category 2 was $53 million. We've been issued this amount, $32.8 million. And then Series D, we have $20 million remaining, which we'll have to return if we borrow $1.5 million from Series C Category 1. So apologies for for the confusion, and I hope that I've made it clear now. So now I'm done with this very long and slightly confusing report. Thank you for your interest and your time.
Thank you, Terry. I don't underestimate what a challenge it has been for you and Stephen Ackerman and all of you to figure this out, meet the IRS requirements, figure out where you can spend the money timely, make up for it when you need to. So thank you for tackling this. Before we move to the next item, I just want to spend a couple of minutes giving anybody a chance to ask questions on what Terry has presented, except for the estuary plan. So if anybody has questions, now's the time to put up your hand and ask to speak. Dee, how about you?
Yeah, it's not a question, but I just was looking at the acquisition, that possible acquisition for 800,000. I just wanted to remind everyone that the East Bay Regional Park District Board of Directors just extended the Measure WW local grant fund for another 3 years, and I think the city of Oakland still has 400,000 outstanding. So that could be money that could be used for that acquisition or any other projects. That most of that money is sitting in a project for the Caldecott Trail, which is not going to happen. There's some what we're
Can you
calling
explain that to me? Because I don't know anything about this. I apologize. This
May I
400,000?
suggest you do this offline?
Yes, let's do that.
About $400,000 sitting on the table. And Dee, would you please talk with Terry about that?
Yeah, let's talk. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Anybody else got 400,000 sitting on the table? I want to ask one, I'm going to call on myself here. Terry, with regard to the repair of the lake path, there are a couple of questions that I'm looking forward to being answered. One of them is what the proposal is for the surfacing. The OPW has put down a couple of sample products. At the last meeting, there was a suggestion, just go with concrete, get it done. So when they come back at the November meeting, I'd like to hear what is the plan, what is the material that is proposed, and what is the plan, given that they have 400,000 and think it might cost 660,000 or close to 700,000. Is this do a segment of it?
Oh no, actually, sorry if I kind of went over that too fast, but here's what's true about that project is City Council approved mid-cycle budget request of 400,000 in Measure Q funding to add to the existing budget. So now there's 700,000 available for the project.
Oh.
And so the cost estimate was 660,000. So they have enough now to do the whole project. And the project manager is working on executing the contract. They're not going to do concrete because that would introduce other problems. They're doing decomposed granite. And I will send an email like as we're speaking, and I will ask the project manager if he can come and give an update himself on this project at the next meeting. How's that?
Excellent, thank you.
Okay.
Any
Great.
other comments? That was great. All right, let's move, without further ado, let's move on to the
Okay.
Park Task Force report. Now, all of you have seen the pictures and heard the background that Terry has provided. Thank you, Terry. So I'm going to turn to you, James. And I think James and John Klein and Naomi, as well as I, 4 of the 5 of us on this task group are here. But James, as our leader, will you take the lead on this and give an update on where we are and answer Lee Orick's question? Is this a time when people need to be weighing in. James, are you there?
Hello, yes, I'm here. Okay, let's see, I would like to, if John could speak for a while, I'm gonna try to bring up the report so I can, quote from it. I don't know how to. So if John wants to start off, with some kind of a status or just to inform people the meetings we've attended, then I will, I'll come back and I want to pull up the report.
Okay. Let's see. So Christine Reed is making the rounds with for the Estuary Park master plan, the original plan, the completed plan, the plan that we've all been waiting for. She's making the rounds she's been to the PRAC. Tonight she was at the Landmarks Board, and on Wednesday she will go to the Planning Commission. And the meeting tonight and the meeting at the Planning Commission will be public hearings. And what she is asking for, and Christopher Tan accompanies her, and they make dual reports. They are asking for each of these committees to endorse the plan. Chris makes a presentation, walks people through it. So that's what's going on right now. And so there, a person had a question. So yes, so actually, yes, now is the time to contact, well, at this point, you would contact the Planning Commission. I suppose you could you would contact the Planning Commission before 3 o'clock on Wednesday to express your support. I believe we're working on a model letter just for people to use. And I don't know if that's going to get out or not. So again, it's the original concept that we've all been thinking about and has been developed through the community process. And so the controversial part of this is, of course, that parcel N, that 4-acre section inside Estuary Park that the developer for Brooklyn Basin is proposing to put owner-occupied housing on. Now, at the PRAC, Chris Reed went into quite a bit of discussion about that whole issue, and to the point where she opined that these kind of development proposals take a long time, and that it could be 5 years before that project, if that project was approved, the housing project was approved, it could be 5 years before that occurs. So in the meantime, and because of that, they are planning to implement areas of the Estuary Park plan that can be done, that aren't disrupted, but while working around parcel N in a way that it doesn't disrupt the development and progress for the Estuary Park master plan. So when I say that Chris went into quite a bit of detail and openly discussed the parcel N issue in a manner that it could be a blockage in time for getting it to resolve, she did just the opposite tonight at the Landmarks Board, and spoke. Her presentation at the PRAC last week was probably half an hour, and tonight it was no more than 10 minutes, partnering with Christopher Tan. And Christopher Tan made clear that the Landmarks Board is only considering the master plan that's before them. They're not considering any kind of housing proposal. And so whether consciously, whether Christine cut back on her presentation just because for shorten the time, or maybe she was asked to just not go into the housing proposal at all, it was much shorter. In the end, though, the Landmarks Board did unanimously approve the Lake Merritt, the Estuary Park Master Plan, and took no position on the housing proposal. So now so James and I and Naomi spoke, and we all three, of course, spoke on the housing portion, that, of course it shouldn't happen. It's a bad idea, and, on various levels and from various points of view. So that's kind of a thumbnail.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah, we submitted a written report, which is third report, to the agenda committee. And I don't know whether the agenda committee generally shares that with the membership, Measure DD attendees, or whether it's just put on the website. But I'll just briefly go over the report. But I did want to answer the questions that were asked. I think they're Brooklyn Basin, the entire project is 64 acres. 34 of those acres are in construction areas, and 30 acres are in parks, including Parcel N. There are 4 parks in Estuary Park, 4 public parks. They're all the site is to be remediated, and those parks are to be repaired when the parks are completed. They're to be gifted to the city, including Parcel N. This was all part of the original agreement, that 30 acres of the estuary of Brooklyn Basin is to be in public parks. And the residents, the market housing residents of Brooklyn Basin will be taxed. They will pay a special tax, and that tax will be put into a fund that will keep the parks maintained. So each resident, when they move in, agreed to that agreement, except for the affordable housing tenants. Just as a side issue, the developers of Brooklyn Basin paid the port $18 million for 64 acres of land in Brooklyn Basin. And that's a total giveaway. And that's why these parks are being dedicated to the city, and the city is not purchasing any of the parks. But they're all supposed to be just turned over to the city after they are developed by the developer, remediated, developed by the developer, and then turned over to the city. Estuary Park is going to be done, improved by the city, but it does include Parcel N. That was all part of that, and that's why the master plan included Parcel N, because that's always been in the agreement. I don't know if there's any other question that he had that didn't get answered about Estuary Park in the land. If so, why don't you ask me that now?
Thank you, James. I'm going to call on John briefly, and then I'm going to call on and David. I'm going to call on Naomi, who can point to where in the agenda is the link that will take you to the letter that has been written in the past, and which is the basis for you to be able to weigh in about the importance of Estuary Park being Estuary Park and not a redistribution of houses approved for other parts of Brooklyn Basin, which is the proposal.
Okay, and there are three things we want to request of the meeting tonight.
James, just a moment, please. I'm going to call on John and then David Wolford, and then I'll come back to you. So John?
Yeah, so just real briefly, so I spoke at both of the meetings, PrAC and Landmark, and made 2 points, one small and one large. And the smaller one, I mean is shorter. And that is the developer has said themselves that they are not asking for additional units. They are simply transferring units from the 3,700 that are already entitled over to Estuary Park Parcel N. So the point I make is if this project for somehow were not approved, Oakland would not lose any housing. No housing will be lost. So that's the first point. The second point, it is in fact true that the original agreement from 2006 includes provisions that the developer will transfer ownership of all the parkland to the city of Oakland, including parcel N. And there's a very detailed exhibit to that attachment to that 2006 agreement that details all of the specifics of the remediation. And looking at the two together, it is clear that the intention is that all of this land, including parcel N, is to be given to the city of Oakland. Now, my belief is that nearly all of the land, the reason it's being given to the city of Oakland is because it's Tidelands Trust land. So that has to be held by a government. Parcel N is a slightly different category, but I believe at that time, I'm speculating, at that time, Signature said, sure, we'll throw in parcel N to, that way, you'll end up with a full park, whatever. But now they are actually reneging on that. By that, I mean, in their proposal for the housing in parcel N, they are asking for an amendment to the development agreement to remove the requirement for them to transfer that property to the city of Oakland. So if the city of Oakland were to agree to that amendment, remove that provision, they would be giving away 4 acres of parkland. It's that simple. They are contractually entitled to that land. So that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you. David, you quickly, and then I'm going to call on Naomi, and then James will have the final word.
Thank you. I'll be as quick as I can. And as I understand it, we are talking about taking about $3.5 million that we were going to use for something else because of this measure the in parcel being up in the air, and use that $3.5 million approximately for some front end development for Estuary Park. And so I guess one question I have is what funds would have been used for that front end development if we weren't moving the $3.5 million to do that because of this proposal to put housing on parcel N. And then when James says that the city would improve Estuary Park, but there are a number of parks that are part of the whole Brooklyn Basin, does that mean that the developer would improve those other parks?
Yes.
And lastly, if approved, if the housing proposal was approved that the developer has, I heard that it would take about 5 years to develop. And so it's okay for us to kind of do these things while we work around, because that would be a 5-year process. And yet, since in order for that, they would have to have approval. And so it seems like it's a much shorter process in terms of when they get approval, and that the 5-year thing is not really on the table yet. Right now, what's on the table is just the short term of whether or not they would get approval. So I was confused about why we would look at a 5-year plan at all right now.
Thank you, David. James, you want to reply to that? Then we're going to give Naomi a chance to tell us
Yeah.
in the chat.
I'm going to ask the city to respond to the question of the money.
Right. That was
If Terry could answer that, that would, if she understands it, I got it a little confused by it.
I understand. And I think, David, I think I probably confused you in the way that I was explaining things. You know, before any of this came up with this proposal for housing on parcel N, Chris and I were working on a plan for phasing construction for Estuary Park because of the problem that we're in, where we have these remaining Series C funds that we have to spend down before we can sell the Series D bond funds, right? And so we were already talking about phasing construction. And you know, when we
That's
were
enough said
in,
for me, Terry.
okay, yeah. So that is when I said the 5 million, it's just that Estuary Park is closest to us being able to spend the funds of actual active projects. And we can't take on any other projects right now. So we just wanted to focus all of our remaining Series C funds on Estuary Park and get ourselves to that point. And as you can see, we haven't, you know, we're getting Estuary Park there. So we can spend funds and then open the door to be able to sell more bonds to have more funding for Estuary Park projects. So it
Thank you,
didn't have
Terry.
anything
Let's go
do
to
with that.
Naomi now, because Naomi, we have a big ask here. Naomi, can you tell us what's in the chat? You're on mute.
I had been mistakenly under the impression that we were going to distribute these materials to everybody before the meeting, but I have put in the chat a somewhat truncated version of a letter which we propose to use as a sample letter. You can vary it as you wish, to send to preferably the planning department first, actually, and the city council members of your choice, and the city administrators, public works, etc. I've put a shortened version here, but I also can provide a fuller version, which I haven't posted yet, but if you approve of this sample letter, I will, at info@saveestuarypark.org, which is a little site that I just invented and will update to include this letter. Don't go there yet. Oh, this is sorry, this is the email, and saveestuarypark.org is the website, right? Wait a second. I'm very bad at Zoom, so you'll excuse me. And so if you guys think this is an okay idea, then I will post this in a coherent fashion, and we can make it available to everybody, but you can also just copy it out of the chat. So the thing is,
the chat copy is broken. I can't copy.
oh,
It's locked. I don't know why.
I don't know either. All right. Well, I don't know. Okay, sorry. I will post it at saveestuarypark.org. So grab that. I thought we were distributing this, so I apologize for not having it ready. What I want to say is this, that the goal really, from my personal point of view, and I don't know about anybody else, but my desire is that we just kill this parcel idea altogether, and then it won't come up. And then we could just build Estuary Park in whatever speed we are able to build. Because really the thing is that this developer shouldn't build there at all. And the solution to the problem of not having Estuary Park, which we already haven't had since 2005, so we're going on 20 years of not having it. And now we're going to add more years, which will be based on the economics of the housing market. I don't think so. So our push right now is to figure out a way to convince everybody to just say no. It shouldn't be hard because it does not add any housing units to the city of Oakland to say no. He's already got approval to do 3,700 units on the existing parcels that he already has approvals for and that can be ready to go anytime the economy will support construction. Anything that we say about it will not change that number of 3,700. It is zoned open space. It was recently again zoned open space as in the downtown plan. So there is really no reason to open it back up. And our solution to this is to make enough fuss to just stop it. I don't expect the city staff to go along with that. They're in a more conflicted position, but I'm not, so I can say whatever I want. And so I request that everybody write a letter that just says, it's real simple. Approve this Estuary Park master plan. Forget about this parcel land nonsense. And I will post a version of this letter at save-estuary-park.org. Again, save-estuary-park.org. And I will post that tonight.
Thank you, Naomi. James and then John.
All right, very quickly, the written report of the task group, the working group or the task group should be posted on a page that I think the agenda committee has set up. So I won't go through the report. I'll just simply say, we would like you to read it so you know what we've been doing. We spent the last couple of months doing an outreach strategy where we defined, reached out to about 200 groups, organizations, and individuals, telling them, informing them about this whole struggle that we're in with Parcel N and Estuary Parks improvement and enlargement, and included a model letter in that. And in addition, we sent a special letter to city officials, in effect saying what Naomi said, that this is nonsense, why are you doing it? So that letter is also a part of the written report. The report also has a paragraph stating that this is really serious business. We really face right now serious risk of losing Estuary Park. And so we would like the coalition to become more activated, more agitated about saving this park. And so we would like, there are three things that we are asking. One, we would like to, we're thinking of, well, we haven't developed the plans yet, but we're thinking of calling an open meeting or rally meeting in Estuary Park itself, pulling the community together. Over 600 people attended community meetings when they were in the course of developing and designing the park. So we'd like to bring as many of those people together and develop a sort of a solid front against this giving away of Parcel N, so that the park can be expanded and developed as it is designed now. The coalition has already spent $1.4 million developing this design plan, so we don't want that to just be wasted. Second thing we would ask is that, as Naomi said, each of the attendees of Measure DD actually send a letter, and if there is a model letter as part of our written report that you can just pull off. It already has the emails for people who we think should send it to. You can modify it, as Naomi said, as much as you want, or just send the model letter, but it's part of the written report. So please look at that. And the third thing, there's a couple of questions that ought to be asked about the developer and what he's doing. So maybe this is a question to Terry. One is, do you know if there is any kind of monetary offering being made to the city to let the city give up parcel in and let the developer put private housing on that? And secondly, the second question is, having to phase the construction of Estuary Park as is now being done to avoid working in the area that is occupied by parcel N. This is going to cost, it costs more money to phase a project and to do it piecemeal, and it takes much longer. Is the city considering this in part of their response to the developer's application, that they will have to pay the city for all this extra cost and extra time that it's costing to even consider the developer's application to use?
Thank you,
parcel N?
James. I'm going to let Terry answer this, then John, and we really have to move this along because we have other things to do. But I hope you're getting the message. Everybody here, counting on you to write this letter. So Terry, can you answer James' question?
Yeah, and I did have my hand up because I see what is written in the chat, and I just wanted to make this clear. And your question, James, keep this up. The city staff will track the cost of the parcel and development application on the park project, including the additional cost of phased implementation, project delay, and any redesign that may be required. If the Brooklyn Basin Development Agreement is amended to change the use of parcel N, compensation for additional park costs would be incorporated in the agreement. That is what we would request. That's what, the Measure DD bond manager will ask for. I cannot say what will happen 100%, but that does seem like the responsibility of the DD bond manager to ask for those funds to be returned. And that's why those are being tracked. And this would be part of the renegotiation process for the amended agreement, right? That we the city would ask for that.
Yeah, thank you. Are you aware of any monetary inducements? Is developers throwing around money for the city to stop and consider this parcel N business?
I have no knowledge of that, and I have no idea.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to go on from here. John?
Sure. So, yeah.
Quickly.
So, right. So this is a time that we need all the individuals and organizations in the coalition to be active. And that's going to go into November, because this plan is going to 2 city council committees in mid-November. So it's not just this week, it actually ramps up in mid-November. So that's the one thing. And I think the next thing is, so James mentioned a rally at Estuary Park. He and I, we haven't come quite to an agreement on what that would look like. I'm thinking that more of a meet and greet. We really want to draw people in from the Jack London neighborhood. And so, so there's that. And then the final thing is so this does need to be attended to, and people really do need to step up for that. And so I'm wondering if the DD Community Coalition could do an October meeting on just this item. And that is the exact time when we want to be prepared for those city council committee presentations. So those are the 3 things. So if you have an organization, you've got a couple of months if you could get a letter from your organization ahead of those council meeting presentations of the Estuary Park Master Plan.
All right. I think you have heard from the Estuary Park Task Group. We are on fire, and we want you to be on fire too, about heading this wrong-minded project off at the pass. So please feel motivated. With that, we are fast running out of time. We have one more item, which is this governance document that James, I think you've prepared. And I'm wondering if we need to take action on that this evening, or
It's not necessary to take action on it. But I would like people to know that this is really nothing new. It's what we do already, but it would just archive along with Measure DD documents how we function. Now, I understand that Mike had some revisions he wanted to make. I haven't seen those. I'd like to see those. So maybe we put this off, and if Terry can give me the comments that Mike had on the draft, then we could bring this back at the next meeting.
Myra, you have your hand up.
Well, as a member of the agenda committee, I propose that we defer this to the next meeting.
Terry, did you want to say something on this? Your hand is still up. I think that was a no.
Sorry about that.
Oh, all right. We're coming to the point of announcements, and I'm going to call on the announcements, and then I'm going to ask us to review the assigned tasks and agenda for suggestions for the next meeting. But Katie, you're on first, and then Mary Spicer, you're on second.
Thank you. I'd just like to let everyone know that there are 3 Lakeside chats that are now available on YouTube for everyone. And I'm putting their URLs, hopefully, no, I'm not. Hold on, I will do that. I'll put that in the chat after I finish talking. And also hope to see everybody out on Creek to Bay Day on Saturday. There will be many wonderful projects all around Oakland to engage in service, including at Sailboat House Marsh with Rotary Nature Center friends. And at the Rotary Nature Center, there is going to be a cleanup, and we encourage people to attend that as well.
Mary, do you want to get an announcement?
Sure. We do very large garbage cleanups at Estuary Park and Jack London Aquatic Center. I put the link to our Saturday cleanup. Sometimes we get up to 200 people coming to the event, and it's all local community. And you guys should come and meet your community. We have grabbers and gloves, and we clear about 2,000 to 3,000 pounds per cleanup. We actually paddle out to the signature beaches. They give us permission to be on their land. The Clinton Basin and the other, we've been clearing those areas before we even knew they were signature. So we've been doing these large garbage. We actually paddle all the way up the Lake Merritt channel and, paddle up to it. We work with a lot of the sunk boats and tons of the plastic debris. Each cleanup we clear, last cleanup Earth Day, we got about 10,000 pieces of plastic. About 70% of that was single-use plastic. We also clear storm debris and all the chaos that's out there. So please come down Saturday, 10 a.m. and meet me. I'll be there. We have a big crew. We have a lot of people set up for a lot of bodies to clear the shoreline, clear Jack London Aquatic Center, Estuary Park. And I really would love to meet some of you that are, or talk to you more on Estuary Park and all the stuff that's out on the water there. We're really familiar with a lot of the shoreline issues, a lot of the stuff that comes out of Lake Merritt Channel. We clean it up. And we've been doing this since 2016, so we'd love to meet.
Thank you. Thank
That's
you.
all.
Mandolin, it's your turn to say more about the Creek to Bay Day.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Can you hear me okay? I think I'm coming. Yes. Creek to Bay Day is this Saturday. As Mary has mentioned, that is one of the activities. There are things happening citywide around your creeks, and most of them are in the parks. I will put in the chat the link that shows those locations and if they're taking volunteers, so you can see exactly where those are. Also, there is a quick park survey going around as part of the preparing us for the Oscar portion of the general plan. And so I'll send you those links. You can learn more about that. Please do the survey. It's super quick. So that can help inform that. And if you have any other questions or want details, please do reach out to one of our staff. Thanks. I'll put that all in the chat.
And I'll mention that the next Lake Merritt Weed Warriors workday is the last Saturday of the month, this month, and we'll be meeting again at the shoulders of the Snow Park bioswale and finish what we started 2 months ago and worked on last month. We're going to finish that project. So we'd love to see you there, 9 to 12. Gloves and tools are provided as well as snacks. And this is such a satisfying experience. I'd also mention to you, because we won't be our November meeting is mid-November, that the Measure DD, the Lake Merritt Lake Merritt Weed Warriors will be meeting not the last Saturday in October, but the first Saturday in November. So November 2nd will be our late October workday, but our September workday is the last Saturday of this month, the 28th. Okay, let's go over what we have talked about tonight. And there was a proposal, a suggestion from Terry that there be a small group of people to work on getting very clear what are the specifics of the projects that we'd like to, the DD Coalition would like to see completed with this, the funds that are available. So who would like to take that on? Okay, you know what that means. You'll be recruited. Terry will get back to you with the names of those who will want to work on that. And I'm thinking for sure we'll have some folks to work with you on, you and Chris Reed on that.
Okay.
But there are other items you particularly want to see besides the governance document and the a presentation on the DG path repair. Any other thoughts? Okay. Carrie, will you, will we see you again in some capacity next, in November?
Not sure if I'll be at the November meeting. Probably. And yeah, and so between now and then we'll sort out those details, but I'm not going to be running it anymore.
Well, I think at this point we all need to thank Terry for these years of being the acting bond manager and wrestling to the ground so many details of projects that have been kind of gnarly. And thank you, Terry, for terrific work.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you so much for your patience with me. Yeah, appreciate you.
So both David and Katie have their hands up. Your quick comments, and then I think we're ready to adjourn for the evening. David?
Thank you, Terry, for all your work and time with us, and bless you in the transitioning to the new process. Oh, but just to be clear, you're not sure if you'll be at the November meeting, because tonight you said several times, as you gave your report, I'll explain about that at the next meeting. Or I,
Right, that was the habit. Yeah, I should have used the passive voice. That will be explained in more detail by someone at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Katie, did you want to say something?
Only to ditto what David said. Thank you, Terry. And I appreciate your being available to talk about various things is great. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you too.
Thank you all. Please write your letters. Oh, yeah, Hazel, do you have your hand up?
Oh, yes. So I just added this after the meeting is adjourned, that there would be the update on the Lake Merritt water quality project. I'm not sure if anyone wants to stay for that or, yeah. But that is on the agenda after the meeting is adjourned. So
Right.
that's an extra.
And that was my idea, but I think that was probably not a great idea, because really, Hazel, we can't stay on if you leave, right? Is that true?
Yeah. So I tried to put on there that I was gonna turn Zoom off at 9:10, but
Okay.
yeah, I'll stay a few more minutes if you want to talk about that. So
Yeah, I mean, I think what I was trying to get at is that this meeting is for Measure DD projects, and the Lake Merritt Water Quality Improvement Project is not a Lake Merritt project, and so I do feel bad that it is 9:10, and I kind of want to let Hazel go. And we are planning to do a stakeholder meeting around the Lake Merritt water quality, but we're so understaffed and we haven't been able to get to it. Yes, Dr. Bailey. And my point is that it's a little late this evening, and this should not be part of a Measure DD meeting, in my opinion. Go ahead.
Well, we were promised 2 or 3 minutes to go over. I was asked to make a presentation, and if you give me like 3 minutes, I can go over something, and then we can go home.
Okay. If you're okay with it, Hazel, yeah.
So it's 9:12 now. At 9:15, we turn into a pumpkin. Dick, talk fast.
Okay. Well, thank you for sponsoring this update as requested by John Bowers. I'll make 6 main points. 1, current efforts to improve the oxygen levels are not working well enough to prevent very low levels near Station 2, where the oxygen machine is deployed, nor at Station 3, where the aerator is located. Point 2, during heavy rains and runoff in December, January, and February, oxygen levels at Station 2 and 3 were frequently below 3 and as low as 0 several times. The regulatory limit, as you know, is 5. 3, during the tide gate closures last month, August 23rd, 24th, oxygen levels at Station 1 were near 0. We're seeing a pattern here. Data from SFEI Institute have shown 0 oxygen levels in 1999, 2001, 2010, and of course during the fish kill in 2022. Note that fish kills were also reported in 1939, 1941, 1951. Point 4, hypodermic needles and trash continue to flow into the lake from storm drains despite technology known to prevent this. The deadline for 0 trash has now been kicked again down the road to June 30th, 2025. This was supposed to be addressed back in 1999. 5, in March, the city got a $1 million grant for water quality. They have not said how this money is to be used. It could be used for at least 5 additional temporary aerators as part of the pilot project, cost about $20,000. B, $100,000 roughly for curb inlet filters downtown. Downtown to partially meet the 0 trash deadline. C, a creek-wide series of filter nets near the mouth of Gleneckle Creek to filter runoff from about 40% of the Lake Merritt watershed. Planning to remove sediment by dredging within 2 years. It's now way overdue. This is the elephant that's not in the room. Lake Merritt typically dredged every 11 years. We're now way past that. E, dye tracer studies. Eli Kirsch wants to do this so he can figure out where the oxygen is going. This was done back in 1975. It needs to be done again. And city publication of why do we have to have a July meeting when it didn't happen and say we're going to have one? Why not have a public monthly summary of the status of the water board TM Dell and the city pilot project. Write it up, put it online. And a meeting, so we don't know how the city's going to use the $1 million project. Get some input, from people on this. And then finally, 6, since September of 2022, there have been 175 posts on the Facebook site called Lake Merritt Commons. So if you want to know what's going on in water quality, go to Lake Merritt Commons and scroll down those posts. There are graphs and there are explanations of the post. And that's the best way to find out what's going on with Lake Merritt water quality. Thank you.
Thank you, Dick. And Terry, what you see here is that there's a lot, Dick is reflecting the interest in the stakeholder meeting that you are planning on the water quality and an opportunity for more robust discussion. One more thing to put on your list.
Yeah. Well, hoping to free up some time not being the Measure DD bond manager. And so, yeah, that is going to help. Actually, we have been incredibly understaffed. It takes a long time to fill positions at the city, and yes, we are getting to it. We're out of time to talk about it, but we will schedule a stakeholder meeting. I hear you on doing monthly status updates. That's something that I hear you're asking for, and I'm not going to promise monthly, but I think we could do something like that, maybe quarterly, something like that. Plus, we are in the process of making improvements to the way we describe the continuous monitoring data. And so we will be, that's something that my staff and I worked on the last few weeks, and we're going to be putting that onto the public facing web page that shows the continuous monitoring results in real time. And so that will give people the ability to better see what is actually happening at every site and how many hours, the dissolved oxygen is good above 5, how many hours it is below 5 in a 24-hour cycle. So I think that's going to help shine some light on some things. So
we'll look forward
anyway,
to that, Terry.
To be continued. Yeah. But yeah, I appreciate it.
With that, I think we need to adjourn. John, we're out of time. I'm sorry to say. Hazel's got to go to bed.
Yeah.
So good night to you all.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.